Charlie, welcome to Camera Conversations. I'll normally say welcome to the show, but you're welcoming me to your home.
Yeah, big thank you. So it's I'm excited for the conversation today.
And we both come from a sales background. Interestingly, people obviously see you now as the online fitness business coach, the expert in that field, but you came from a real estate sales and estate agency background. Is there anything that's still in your head that you use from those early days?
Inputs and outputs equation. So I remember how easy it is to win was this simple, and that I actually transparently wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't cheat the entire system. Not saying you should cheat to win, but I kind of did. We used to have a computer that would be in like the front of the office where all the leads from Rightmove and Zoop would come in. So what I would do is I'd come into the office early before everyone else. I'd take all the good leads and then basically call them in and book them in and sell them for viewings or whatever. The second thing I would also do is I'd pick up the phone faster than anyone else, because I understood straight away, okay, if I want to win and be the highest performing person, if I control the lead flow, I'm going to make the most money. And then within like 2 years, I became the manager of the branch, basically because of that very simple system. So I think that's where, if you're intelligent and you kind of reverse engineer the process, you can start with the end in mind and get to where you want to be quicker.
Yeah, you used the phrase when we did your show earlier, success loves speed, poverty loves indecision. You just decided that you were going to be really quick on the phone and you were going to pick and use your energy wisely by phoning the best leads as fast as possible.
Well, it's how can you get to the end desired result as quickly as possible? And that, for me, even from where my life dramatically changed, is when I hired people to coach me on certain aspects and I could collapse time down. I was like, well, this is the ultimate life hack, because you can then condense years of someone's experience into an hour conversation and move light years faster. And I think the problem where most people aren't necessarily open-minded to that. And I think when I first invested, maybe I think it was £700 to someone, when I first invested that, maybe like 2015, 2016, if I told my parents that, they'd be like, you're insane. You paid someone £700 to speak to them on the internet for half an hour. But that can be the catalyst to completely transform your life.
Yeah, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you can find somebody who's maybe at H in the alphabet rather than if you're at A or B, then paying for their time to shortcut how you get there is a cheat code. You save time, you save money, you save energy, and there's an opportunity cost in not doing it.
I think the biggest cost everyone has right now is ignorance tax, and you're not even aware of the things that you're not aware of. It's the problem. It's the unknown unknowns, and the cost of the unknown unknown is infinite. And for me, that's where I probably have a paranoia about trying to find out what those things are. In particular, the world we live in now, the half-life of information is moving so fast with technology that you can't rest on your laurels that what you do right now is going to work in 12 months and 2 years. And that's really where a framework that I think about and I kind of teach is that you actually have two businesses. So you have the business you have today and the business you have tomorrow. But if you don't actually start thinking or start building the business tomorrow, you will be out of business tomorrow.
What are some of the mistakes that people are making not thinking about the business of tomorrow?
Not looking at where they're trying to go and why, and where consumer behavior is kind of changing. So everything is kind of pattern based and cycles. So I think where most people are going wrong is, okay, they want to have a business that makes 100K a month. Okay, cool. And you're a one-man band right now. Okay, how many team members do I need to have when I have 100K a month? Okay, you need X, Y, Z. So you can start to think about, okay, where am I going to find these people? How many calls do I need to book? How many leads do I need? And then you can start to engineer the process, which is ultimately where it kind of comes very easy. Like, one of the things I kind of love nerding out on, it's kind of like educated gambling, is Facebook ads. And this is where it's easy for people to scale their business when they know how to run ads. So if, for example, you have a KPI which spend £200 to get a qualified call booked. Okay, cool. If I want to get 20 calls a day, I then know how much I need to then spend to then achieve that. I roughly know what our close rate will be, and I can roughly kind of predict our income. And that's essentially where, if you're an intelligent business owner, you can start to build a cash machine from your business and you can just turn the dial up.
Yeah, and it's just recognizing what those metrics are and where they should be spending their time. So in the same way, when you were in the estate agency world, you knew that your time was best spent filtering for the quality of the leads and then calling those people really, really quickly. If a fitness business owner is listening to this, or anyone in any particular industry or sector, you need to understand what are the things in your day or your week or your month or your quarter that really move the dial in the right direction. And you and I love content, we love outreach, we love lead generation, but identifying where are the most valuable levers that you can pull, or the dials you can turn up, whatever analogy we want to use that helps it picture in somebody's mind. Because if you don't know what that is, then how can you picture what a good week or a good month or a good year looks like?
And also, I think the reason why a lot of people can't even picture what a good month or a good week looks like is they don't know what that looks like. And I can give a great story to this, that I remember in 2020, I thought I was Billy Big Balls, making 30K a month or something in my fitness business. I went to the US, I met one of my best friends now, and this guy called Frank, and I was like, how much money do you make? And he was like, 1.2 million a month. And I was like, the thermostat in terms of where you're at is like, my ego and identity suddenly imploded. I'm like, okay, fuck. So I've got some work to kind of do here. And I think that is also important why people kind of need to throw themselves in the deep end into a bigger pond, as you will, because it then will allow you to grow more.
Yeah, we're having this conversation in Dubai, and I think anyone that comes here realizes how abundant and how large things can get in terms of money and resource and scale. And for some people that can be crippling and intimidating, but for most people that listen to self-development podcasts like Campbell Conversations, it should be motivating and stimulating. And while you may never want to even get to 1 million a month, it might not be actually within your truly what you want and what you desire. We were talking about mimetic desires earlier. You can see what's possible, and you can appreciate that what you're doing just now is scalable and can have growth, and you haven't actually hit a ceiling or a glass ceiling. In fact, you can smash through that if you choose to do so.
It's a phenomenal book, and it's 10x is easier than 2x, because if you're going to 10x your business, you have to completely change the way you're thinking, your perceptions to try and get to that standpoint. And that's how you get monumental growth, because you're going to have to change your internal belief systems, but probably you're also going to have to focus on bigger levers and bigger swings that's going to actually have a much higher output and potential outcome. The reason why most people stay stuck in terms of where they are is that I gave an example earlier when we were speaking in terms of, we have a client, he spends $3,000 a month, say unpaid ads, he makes $50,000 a month. I'm like, cool, dude. Like, we can improve your cost per lead a little bit and maybe get you to like 55,000, or you can add a zero on how much you spend and just 10x your entire business. So,
yeah, we were speaking about that because he's got proof of concept that once a lead comes in, he knows how to run the discovery call, he knows how to present, his offer is good, and his conversion rate's really good. But ultimately, to make the boat go faster, he's going to need to add more leverage to it. And that leverage is money at the front end on the ads to generate even more leads, which will generate even more calls, which will generate even more clients. And sometimes there is that level of, you mentioned thermostat there, that wealth thermostat. 3K is a lot of money to me a month to spend on ads, but you're generating 50. So imagine that was 6. Did that turn into 100? It could do, potentially. The ad might top out. We know the nature of Facebook and these things as well, and you're more of an expert in that area than I am. But if you can adjust your risk appetite and risk tolerance for what's going in at the front end, knowing that you have a proven system at the back end, then you should have confidence when you add that extra zero, or even if you doubled that spend. For too long, Brits have not been able to invest like Americans. They've not had the same confidence, the same clarity, or even the same returns. Think Money is here to change all of that, and today's podcast is sponsored and supported by the Think Money Academy. You'll know the founder, David Bell, who was a hugely popular guest on the podcast during 2025, and he has one simple mission. I only care about Brits investing more in shares. Their system teaches you how to trade like a pro rather than a punter, and remove that stress, noise, and chaos of trying to beat the market with things like day trading, and instead you're going to use non-emotional, systematic, trend-based following. People inside the academy have had incredible returns, 56% on Kratos, 60% on GoDaddy, and even 218% on Robinhood, all by following their framework. If you want to invest today and learn how to invest properly, you can hit the link in the show notes and take the assessment and book a call. And don't forget, you can use the code CAMBRO for 10% off. The link is think-money/academy.
So Jordan Lee, who's been on my podcast, who's kind of a mutual friend, he spoke at our event recently, and one of the big things he pushed multiple times is you just got to have the minerals to go for it. And there's a certain point where you just got to put your balls on the table and just kind of go for it. And I think some people, it doesn't mean you have to go from like 3K to 50K in a month or whatever it might be, but you can kind of gradually increase that up. And the reason why people stay stuck in the same position is, even if you don't look at Facebook ads, let's say the volume of work they do generally is, okay, you do 3 posts a week on Instagram and you get a couple of leads a week. It's like, hey, do you think if you did a post every day, you'd get more leads? Like, probably. So like, do you think you should go and do that? Like, you want to try and max out what you can kind of do. And then that's how you naturally become lucky. Ramos's
got the phrase that volume is the answer, quality is the ingredient. So as you say there, 3 posts a week just now on Instagram, let's get that up to 7, but let's work on how good those 7 posts are as well. And inevitably over time, the results will show off the back of that. And that's the same for my sales background. Like, many people are like, oh, I need to send 10 cold DMs a day and do 10 cold calls, depending what sector you're in, that'll be more or less relevant. But then get better at how you do those calls over time so that you actually become more efficient. And we become, I'm very against a thing called batch and blast, spray and pray. Like, I think you should send personalized stuff as much as possible, even if it's just a small thing. and then we want to use the sniper rifle rather than the machine gun, so that the quality of our outreach is really good. But guess what? We're reloading the sniper rifle constantly and shooting lots. Whereas I think some people, they err on the side of like, I'm not very good at outbound, I'm not very good at cold calling, I'm not very good at generating leads. I'm just going to do a little bit of it, but then never practice getting better at the little bit they do either.
Well, there's two things that unpack from that. As one is, be very careful of the language you use to talk over yourself, because if you say you are not good at something, you will not be good at it. And then second, the framework of like more, better, new. So like the more you do of something, eventually the better you get at it. And then you want to max that out before you then kind of do the next thing. And for me, like I just try and find something that wins in business, and then I just like, I will pull that slot machine all day and just don't get bored. Whereas what most people do is they'll find like the winning lottery number. They'll be like, oh yeah, I want to go play another game now. It's like, dude, just like keep pulling the lever and keep pulling the money out rather than going to something else.
Charlie, such a good point, because that new piece at the end is what people flock to immediately. So for example, they see that another coach in your space is doing really well and they're using ManyChat. So they're like, oh, ManyChat must be the answer. But could it be that the guide that somebody has created through that they're going to send somebody ManyChat is really, really good, and ManyChat is just the vehicle for them shipping that out? And they're like, oh, that's the answer. You're like, no. You need to do something better first before you do something new. And shiny object syndrome is a killer in today's day and age, because we've got so much content out there, and you and I are cranking out plenty of content that's valuable to people, but people could just mass consume and then never do anything with it. Whereas what we're encouraging you to do is better first, more first, better, then new. Don't just jump to the novel thing.
Well, the human brain always wants new stimulus. That's because we get distracted. So Seb Bates would be great for your podcast. He did a podcast on my show. He has the biggest martial arts academy for kids in the Middle East. Very good friends with Dan Priestley. He said to me, like, the most important thing in business is just sitting in boredom. Of like, you have this problem, fix the thing. Don't go and like, oh yeah, I don't want to deal with this, so I'm going to go and do this now. Because the reality is, like, the reason that it's hard is because it's a difficult thing to kind of execute. And if you can do it, guess what? No one else can. And that's why you'll grow really quickly. But the problem is, most people spend a week trying to figure out, but like, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to go and do this because this seems like a better idea.
Yeah, if you can sit in the tedium and do the mundane things over and over again, and I have different little time management hacks and things like that. I like to talk about gamifying stuff. So if it's a really boring task, gamify it in terms of like, okay, I was faster at doing it this time, or I was better at doing it this time, or I did it in a way where I had like bundling. So I listened to a podcast while I was doing the boring outbound, or I listened to music that I enjoy when I was doing my CRM update. Okay, cool. Let's try and make the boring stuff slightly more tolerable by doing something alongside it, or try and get better or faster at it or more fun at it. And over time, you'll end up in a position where you're still showing up and doing those tasks, and you're not jumping to the next novel thing that excites you.
Well, also, one of the things, if you look at like how the human brain is wired, is to chase dopamine. So like sometimes I'll do nerdy things like tracking data on a VSL, and I'll put a timer on, see how quickly I can kind of do it. So if you can kind of make the whole thing as a game, you will then actually push yourself to go faster and further. And I would also say, if you can try and enjoy the process of anything you do, the likelihood that you'll actually be better at it will dramatically increase.
You mentioned self-talk there, and somebody being like, I'm not good at outreach, or I'm not good at discovery calls, or I'm not good at posting content, or I hate speaking to the camera. That becomes their reality. And you and I have spoke previously about an element of be, do, have. What does that mean to you?
For me, the B thing is just do it fucking anyway. So like the last November's the most successful month I've ever had in business, but also probably the most challenging. I had like a 4 to 6 week old child. I had people close to me with health issues, and then like we had a massive event, like the biggest event we ever had, all at the same kind of time. And the reality with that is like, just do it anyway. So like for me, if I'm in the mood where I'm like, okay, like I'm having a challenging day for whatever reason, I literally will just look at my calendar, be like, okay, I just need to do this, I just need to do this, I just need to just follow the fucking plan and just execute on it. Because the biggest mistake most people make is they let their temporary feelings like override their long-term goals and decisions. And if you just do it anyway, at the end of the day, you'll feel the relief you did the thing, and you're starting to build that confidence and resilience. A framework I talk about for entrepreneurs to be really successful is the 3 R's, which is where you need to be resilient, you need to be resourceful, and you need to be relentless. They're like the key 3 character traits. If you have that, you can absolutely crush, because business and life is kind of a game of who can continue to get kicked in the dick the longest and keep going and just keep getting up. Because like there's going to be good moments, bad moments. I think it's just understanding that it's okay to have bad moments and it's okay to not get overexcited with the good moments.
One of the things there that I think is a really important lesson for listeners to, if they need to rewind and re-listen to there, you decided that you were the kind of guy that was going to do the work regardless of how you felt, in terms of you were going to disregard your temporary feelings because you understood the long-term game was important. When your self-talk, your identity, your habits, behaviours and routines all align with I'm the guy that does it regardless, then guess what? You become the guy that does it regardless. And I was saying to you that an interesting thing with the podcast at the stage it's at now is that because I have an audience, sometimes I'll bring on somebody who's a relative unknown or not somebody that's massive online. And recently that was a gentleman called Rob Begg, who's an expert in non-dual thought. And that episode's done really, really well. And he was speaking about how important it is that we redefine how we see ourselves very, very early, because that will shape what comes down the line from it. And many people assume they have a do problem, which sometimes they do. They need to do things and need to prove to themselves they are that person. But foundationally, if you can go back to that level of awareness from a non-dual perspective and recognize that I'm the type of person that does this stuff, then when push comes to shove, the temptation comes, you resist and you still do the stuff. And I can only imagine the number of coaches you've worked with, you almost have to rewire their brain to be the guy before they become the guy.
So I'm a structure and systems person. So would you like a massively easy hack anyone can implement to do that? When you first wake up in the morning, you don't look at anything beforehand, get a pen and paper, get like a notebook, a journal. I literally just write down in present tense exactly what I want, but I've already achieved it. So I have a net worth of X. I make X amount every month. A great example was I had one maybe 2 years ago. It was like I drive my supercar to the gym every day. I then got a supercar. Other one was I live on a house in the Palm. Like we're now recording this in a house in the Palm. So like you can start to manifest these things into coming to reality because you can trick your brain into thinking it's already happened, and then you start to act accordingly based upon that.
Yeah, and people give manifestation a hard time online because they hear the ridiculous examples of it. They hear people that are like a bit delusional, but you had those goals, aims and ambitions, and your thoughts became things because of the work you implemented off the back of believing that to be the case. And because you believed that to be the case, you did the actions which joined the dots between your existing reality across the bridge to where it became your reality now. And I think too many people don't picture that, or they aren't conscious enough. They live life on autopilot, so they'll always get what they've always got.
Well, the only way your life is going to dramatically change is if you change, which comes down to the belief system you have, which is ultimately going to just determine your daily actions and your outputs of what you do. So the reason most people's businesses, for example, stay in the same position is because they do the exact same thing every single day. They don't try anything new. They don't try and do more. They don't try and spend more. They don't try and hire more team members. And then they're wondering why they're in the same position 12 months later. It's like, dude, you've done the same thing for 12 months, which is why you kind of have to increase what you're doing, not necessarily do new things, but do more of what works. Because statistically, on average in business, when you go and do a new strategy, only 1 in 3 will generally work. The reason why most people don't actually see any success is because they're constantly trying new things, thinking everything works, whereas most things don't.
Around.
Yeah.
Do you want to turn your LinkedIn into a selling machine rather than a time sink? Well, that's exactly what I'm helping you do with my step-by-step guide that shows you exactly how I've built my brand, generated inbound leads, and turned my network into paying clients. It covers everything on how to write your profile, post structure and templates you can use, as well as outbound messages to your ideal clients to book meetings with them. This is the exact framework that I've used myself and teach inside my coaching program, condensed into one short, actionable guide that you can implement straight away. You can grab your copy at the link in the show notes or DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn, the word guide, and I'll send it straight to you. You've shared that you spent £700 with your first mentor, but I know that you've spent over 500k on mentors over the last number of years. What have been the biggest things you've learned?
I think at a certain point, you have the skill set. It's more reassurance. And I think wisdom, as I think people become, as you have more success in business. The biggest lesson I think I would have learned is just exposure to being around people who are like the next level above me. From a tactical level, I think it's the most exciting time in business, which I kind of get upset about now, is the beginning, because it's a beautiful, horrible scenario of it's the hardest when you have the least amount of skills, you've got the worst mindset, and you've got the least amount of resources, but it's also kind of the most exciting because like, oh, I could do this, I could get to where I kind of want to be, and I can get out of maybe my shitty 9-to-5 job or whatever it is. But you can also learn things incredibly fast and get dramatic results. Whereas if you already have a business that makes hundreds of thousands of dollars every month, I can't just learn, okay, there's this thing called Instagram, I can put a post up and make, like, dude, I'm already doing that. Like, so you don't necessarily have all these new tools in your arsenal you can pull out. So I think for me, the most valuable thing was getting those base fundamentals in place. And then the framework I've always thought about is, okay, once I've mastered these skills, what's the next deficit essentially I have as a skill? Who's the person who can solve that the quickest? Find that person, throw money in them, execute. It should then work to get to the next point and then find what the next hurdle is.
How did you filter for the mentors you chose to work with?
Had they done the thing I wanted to do, and have they helped other people do it at the highest level? Because at that point, it's irrefutable. The person knows what they're doing. So like, if you look at it from a fitness background, is the trainer you want to work with, are they in really good shape? Tick. Okay, cool. Are his clients getting really good results? Cool. Okay. He evidently knows what he's doing. It's the same thing in terms of like, if you work with a business coach, but they've never really made any money, and then none of their clients make a lot of money. It's like, or maybe their clients do like okay. It's like, well, if they were probably really good, their clients would make a lot of money. Like we've taken people from 10K a month to 300 to 400K a month. And we take a lot of people who are beginners. So it kind of really varies in terms of spectrum, because people can go as far as they want in life. It just depends how much mental fortitude do they have and how far do they want to go. And I would transparently say to everyone listening to this, you don't necessarily want to have a business that makes 300, 500K a month. Like I can tell you that. There's a lot of things that come with it that aren't fun. You might be better off with the smaller business, and that's your kind of.
It can be a lifestyle boutique business, and there's a lot to be said for that as well. Some people don't want to build a behemoth; they want to build a business that they enjoy working within, but it enables them what's the lifestyle that they care about. It's the whole what you want to want piece that we were speaking about.
And for me, it's life by design. What's the life you want? If you start that intention, you're very clear. Okay, you want to make 10K a month and live in Dubai or Bali and sit on the beach for half a day. Like, cool, you can do that. If you want to try and make as much money as possible and try and retire by the time you're 35, 40, cool. Like you can do that too. Just like choose which lane you want to pick and then go all in on
and
that
adapt your approach based on that. Yeah, that's right. And I guess it's not being influenced by just what you see online. So maybe somebody sees a testimonial from one of your guys that's doing the absolute most, but they don't understand the pain, the sacrifice, the work that's gone into that. And they might not be willing to do that. And there's a phrase that I use on the podcast all the time from Tim Cook from Apple. The tools will be heavy, but they'll feel light in your hands. So when we did your show, you were talking about my success of building the podcast, the kind of relentless nature of it, and the fact that I've just showed up regardless, rain, hail or shine, Wi-Fi or no Wi-Fi. And that's because I've been having fun doing it, and I committed to it, and I told myself I was going to do it, and I told myself I was going to be the guy that produced a good episode every single Sunday with a well-researched question set with a good quality guest, and I was going to release the promotional clips, and I was going to push it on social media to get people to listen to it. I decided that was going to be the case, so inevitably it was going to be the case. But I love having these conversations. Like me and you have had a great chat the last hour that we did on your show. We're going to have a great chat this hour as well. Like it's hard to compete with somebody having fun. But if for whatever reason you decided you were going to start a podcast and you did it because you wanted to be notorious or famous, or you thought it was going to be a quick win in terms of financially, you're not going to last. I'm going to beat you because you're not doing it from the same place. So the tools are heavy, but they're light in my hands. They might feel like a ton weight to you. You might be fucked.
Or like, you know me originally from the My Protein things. I don't know, that was like 2017, 2018. And like a few people said to me, it's like a lot of people have come and gone in the fitness industry. Very few people have managed to stand the test of time. And a lot of that is for that reason. For like, I don't fucking care. I'm just going to do this anyway because I enjoyed the thing. And regardless if I didn't need the money or not, I would still do business stuff because I would just get bored. There's only so much you could sit on the beach and drink cocktails and read books. Well, I'll give you an example. Like I will go to the beach to try and chill out and I'll start reading a book about business and I get a load of ideas and I go home and start working. So like it's kind of that loop. And I think
you can't compete with somebody that wants to do that though. Yeah. So if you want to be a fitness business coach, Charlie's going to beat you because you just get such a buzz from it. So it's about recognizing what are our drivers, what are we capable of, what do we truly want to want, what are our strengths, lean into those and work in those domains. One of the big captures that I got on the podcast in the early days, 2022, was Sahil Bloom, who's got an amazing amazing LinkedIn, really good email list. And he spoke about the zone of genius, where it's that crossover between something you're good at, you really care about, and you can feel yourself working hard at it for an extended period of time. A lot of the people you work with, their passion probably is training and nutrition, but they also need to make sure their passion is helping people, creating content, promoting their business, asking for somebody to sign up with them from a client, getting a great result and asking for a testimonial or a referral, as we were speaking about earlier as well. if your zone of genius is in that space, you're going to do much better than the coach that just quite likes being in the gym or quite likes training themselves.
Can I also give you an example where this is interesting?
Let's
so
do it.
a lot of people there, this will relate to anyone if they're a personal trainer listening to this. So a lot of people, their zone of genius will be fitness, and then they start training people in the gym all day long, 8 to 10 hours a day, and then they start to fucking hate the gym. They start to hate their own training, and you kind of ruin your own zone of genius. I see that happen a lot. And one of the things people will label themselves that they're not good at certain things or they don't like certain things. You're not good at it because you haven't probably tried it for long enough, but your zone of genius, I think, can change dramatically over a period of time. So, for example, I used to be very shy. I used to be very introverted. I wouldn't want to talk on camera or do anything like this. I wouldn't want to public speak. We've now gone the complete other end of the spectrum. Like, this is kind of my favorite thing to do. And that's where you can kind of acquire these things as skills and you can learn them, but you just kind of need to lean into maybe the awkwardness.
We were talking about exposure therapy as well. And competence comes with time. We all have predispositions to having particular skill sets. So when I started the podcast, I had a bit of a predisposition to presenting and questioning because I'd run lots of sales meetings with finance directors, MDs of big businesses. I had to be confident to have those conversations. I had to research well, and I'd gotten really good at outreach to book their time. So I got really good at outreach to book podcast guests.
It's a hack.
And yeah, it's unbelievable. It's so good. And when it comes to that stuff, there's a little bit of a predisposition there, but I wasn't always the confident guy that could look down a microphone and speak for an hour about lots of different topics being wide open. I wouldn't rock up to a house in the palm confident that I'm going to absolutely smash a couple of conversations with you. You had to build up to that. It was exposure therapy. In the same way, if we use a fitness example, the first time you went in the gym, you didn't bench 100 kg. You're probably shaking like a shitting dog doing 40. That took time to build up your capacity to deal with that. And that's fine as long as you keep showing up and keep improving and iterating on the process and how you recover around that process. Then it means whenever you get on the bench press or whenever you get in front of the camera or whenever you get in whatever area of your life you're looking to improve on, we're going to get better. But forever a student and also doing the reps that allow us to get better.
It comes down to the resilient and relentless thing I said earlier, because there's also having thick skin. So even if you look at the social media realm, one of, not my personal opinion in terms of what you should do to grow your brand, but a lot of the way some people like to grow their own brand is try and tear other people down, which morally probably is not the type of thing I would kind of necessarily agree with. But this is also one of the hurdles that starts to happen, is that people start to kind of post content and maybe someone puts one type of comment on there and then like, oh, I don't want to make content anymore because Sally at the fucking co-op said my arms look a bit chubby or whatever the thing might be. And I think that's where so many people's hopes and dreams go to die because of someone they don't even know's opinion that doesn't even matter.
These days, it feels like every brand is shouting about how supplements are the answer to everything and all your problems. Before you jump on the latest wellness trend, it's worth remembering the foundations and basics come first. Hydration, good nutrition, rest, movement are the real keys. When you do decide to supplement, however, what you choose really does matter. You know I'm a big fan of removing toxins and unnecessary things from your lifestyle, and I ensure that my supplements are free from additives, artificial flavors, and any unnecessary, dirty, toxic fillers. Personally, having seen many professional athletes and top performers utilize their products, I decided to give Pure Sport supplements a go. Their products are built on science-backed information, minimal ingredients, and they do exactly what they're meant to. Whether it's their best-selling ultra electrolytes to keep you hydrated and energized, their deep magnesium to support with quality sleep, or even their natural testosterone boosting Tonka Ali, I trust that what they make is developed to care for me and my body. Explore the full range of Pure Sport supplements at the link in the show notes, puresport.co, and use the code CAMBRO10 for 10% off.
Do you know a big mistake that I see in the fitness space? And I recognise this because I initially grew my Instagram following through posting fitness content, and that's how I had the muscle food, my protein, all that different stuff back in the day. People posting fitness content to impress other fitness people. That is so fucking stupid, because those people are never going to buy your coaching services. Instead, post things that your average client avatar would benefit from. So like if you're like, oh, it's really obvious to talk about how you can boost your TDE by doing more steps and hitting 10k steps a day, although it's an average number, and explaining that, every fitness person that opens that is like, well, duh, because they know that for the last however many years that's been popular, like get your knee up. But the average punter, if you went into an office block in London or Glasgow, where I'm from, or even into an office in Dubai, probably doesn't know the importance of a reasonable step count, or they don't quite understand the mechanics behind it. So if you create content around that, your fitness pals are going to be like, well done, Captain Obvious. But the average punter that could potentially be a client for you is going to benefit from that. And I found that when I moved into doing the sales coaching full time, stuff that I assume is completely obvious about outbound email, follow up, cold call structure, discovery meeting structure, follow-up process, email templates, people are like, whoa. And I'm like, okay, it's obvious to me because I've been in it for a decade. It's the same for you in fitness. You must understand that you're not speaking to your fellow professionals. You are speaking to somebody that's a few steps below you in the journey that you can help get to where you're at.
Well, the problem in most online marketing spaces is it's like the blind following the blind. So because Jimmy, who lives in Dubai, has got a big following and gets loads of views and likes, doesn't necessarily mean Jimmy makes any money or has a successful business. And I see this day in, day out all the time.
You like this phrase, Charlie? Fur coat, no knickers.
Yeah, literally. Like I could tell you hundreds of people who I know like this. And it's there's people who are like ghosts who go under the radar, who make loads and loads of money, who people would never even know of. And I think that's where you need to actually be very specific and trying to focus in like your own bubble in some regards and not get manipulated just from what you see, what works online. I'll caveat that with one of the big marketing things I do like is like the Picasso method of you find what works and you kind of copy it to your own iteration, because there's only so many different ways you can explain fat loss.
Wait, there's nothing original in this game, but put your own spin on it, put your own personality on it. If you're somebody that's humorous, do that. If you're somebody that's quite serious, do that. If you're somebody that films in a particular style, do that. But teach the same concept, but just or say for example your demographic are post pregnant women, then put a female spin on what you're talking about. Whereas the guy that's maybe speaking to young guys that want to get jacked for their first lad's holiday, put a different spin on that. If you know maybe they're going to be into football or into sports, use like a sporting analogy. Whereas if for the women, use an analogy about, again, really sexist, shopping or pregnancy or female hormones. Let's address those topics. I think too many people are like total generalists and they just try and wrap up content in the way that they see everyone else do it.
The biggest mistake people make in marketing is if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. So you need to be very clear in terms of who you are working with, but also more importantly, who you do not work with. So like some of the ads we will run will be like kind of quite aggressive, be like, if you're lazy, broke and don't want to do anything, kind of like keep scrolling. And like that then pulls in people that we kind of want to work with. And some of the ads might, like in particular, we market a lot to the US, are very ostentatious. So have all the ClickFunnels awards, Ferraris, like beaches and all the stuff in the background, because you're trying to pull people in. I think that's magnetic marketing, where you're literally like, there's two poles on a magnet, right? One pushes away and one pulls. You want to get away the people who you don't want, because the more you push them away, the more you pull in who you really want.
Yeah, one of my sales coaching clients is a former professional rugby player for Ireland and Munster. And when we turned on his LinkedIn and Instagram content for performance coaching clients, not personal training, but more mindset stuff, his DMs were just absolutely overrun. And he was like, I'm getting on discovery calls with people that are totally inappropriate for my service. And I was like, next call, we're going to do qualification and disqualification questions. And he was like, what's disqualification questions? Because these guys are rugby players. They've literally been trying to perform at the peak for a game the full time. They've never thought about business. So when they get into this world, it's quite intimidating for them. I work with another actual ex-England player in this space, and it's been a very similar journey. So the disqualification questions he had over DM were just really simple questions he could ask before he sent the Calendly link to book in, to make sure that he wasn't going to jump on a half-hour Zoom call with somebody who's completely financially inappropriate, didn't have the goals that were aligned, maybe just wanted to chat with him because he's a famous rugby player in their country. So when you think about your content in the front end, or how you deal with people over DM before you book your call as part of your process, you must also recognize that not every lead is a good lead. Not every sales call is going to lead to a proposal. Not every proposal you send is going to lead to a client. There's positions along the way where you are allowed to say, this isn't going to work for us. Maybe you should speak to another coach, or maybe you should speak to another individual, or maybe you should just fuck off.
There's two things I'd kind of add into that. So I get people the same time say like, oh, my leads aren't any good. Like most of them are terrible. I'm like, okay, cool. Like if you look at the population of planet Earth, 98% of them are bad quality lead. You said to me earlier that I don't know, like half of the UK have less than £1,000 in the bank account.
Yeah,
so I was like, well, that's at least half of them are out straight away. And the rest of them are like, maybe that you don't work with men, women, whatever. So that kind of gone. The simple framework that I would teach people from a qualification standpoint, and this gets more important when you run paid ads and you're essentially trying to drag Sally from the co-op off the internet onto a call and sell her something, is BANT. And that's an abbreviation for budget, authority, need, and timeline. Really simple framework, but if you can kind of tick those boxes, they're kind of appropriate then to kind of have the conversation. What I see a lot of people do is that they're too kind to try and sell to everyone, but you have to understand they have to protect their time more.
Yeah, my one and only fitness coaching business that I work with in the sales coaching stuff, that is literally the things that we look to achieve in their type form. And if any red flags have shown up in the type form, the call gets cancelled, or they phone them first before they jump on the Zoom call with them just to make sure they've qualified the questions correctly, because otherwise you're just wasting bandwidth. There's a space in your diary, and appreciate we're saying this because people are maybe worried that I'm not having enough calls, so I'll just take any call. Incorrect. Only take calls that serve you, because even if you have a call in the diary, it's not worthwhile. That half hour you could have spent making more content, improving your offer, building out some free resources, building out some paid resources that are maybe lower ticket stuff that you can sell as ebooks. Take the time and use it accordingly. I would rather you weren't on a sales call that's never going to become a client. It's not good practice. It's just wasting your time.
So having run a business online for a period of time, and at one point we had a team of 55, we maybe have 30 now. I think our sales team should probably know, is 10 to 14. The biggest thing that I would say I have learned, the most value I would probably give someone in one sentence, is you only have so much intellectual horsepower every day. No matter how many Monster Energies, Ghost drinks, tonics, modafinils, a pop or whatever, like you can drug yourself to nines. You've probably got 3 to 4 hours of really like peak, like fluid intelligence where you can kind of really go in on all things. And if you're spending 3 hours of that with, quite frankly, retards who shouldn't be on the phone with you, that is why you're not in the position you're in, because everyone has the same amount of time every day. It's just how you decide to like allocate that.
Totally agree. I know you've worked with Craig Ballantyne, who was a really popular guest on the show earlier this year. What were your biggest lessons from him?
Craig is an amazing human being, and I cannot say that anymore. He was almost like a fatherly figure to me. He helped me probably level up a lot as kind of like an adult and as a man, as a kind of a strange thing as that would say. He helped me a lot. I think probably the biggest thing I took from Craig was his thinking process, in terms of I'm very hard on myself naturally. And so like I said to you earlier about, I'd be like, okay, I want to make 10 grand a day. And if I don't make 10 grand a day, I like beat myself up. It was like, well, you can't control that necessarily every day, but you can control the processes that get you to that.
The input that gets you to
so
that.
He kind of helped a lot in terms of my thinking patterns for that, and helped me in terms of becoming a better leader and a CEO, rather than before and I still kind of have this approach to some degrees, like it was just brute force violence of just do fucking everything and just send it. And transparently, if you're at the beginning of your business, you kind of need to do that. But then when you have a big team, you've got leverage, you've got all the other things, if you start to have that same approach where you're trying to do everything and you've got a team of 10, 20, 30, however many people you have working for you, you create anarchy. So you have to kind of unlearn some of the things that got you into that position.
What got you here won't get you there. And I think that's Hormozi's great. From 0 to 1, brute violence, brute force, rip it off the floor, do what you need to do. From 1 to 10 or 1 to whatever you're going to go to, different approach.
It's a different game and different skill sets, and it's the chess, not checkers kind of analogy. And I think that's why I like the book, the 10X is easy and the 2X, because you then suddenly start to realize, okay, say you have a business that makes, I don't know, whatever, say you make 50K a month. Okay, I want to make 500K a month or $1 million a month. I don't know many people who make 500 grand a month online who don't run any paid traffic. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. The people can kind of dispute that, maybe in the fitness industry. So, okay, then the only way to then do that is you have to be able to learn to run some form of paid traffic to get new cold people into your world. So that's for me where I kind of look, can this actually be done or can it not be done?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I learned from Craig, and this will be an interesting one for people listening who maybe haven't listened to that episode or didn't fully absorb what he was saying, was his new book is all around discipline, which he was known as the world's most disciplined man, was kind of one of his taglines as well. And he was redefining discipline as ensuring that you put a level 10 effort into your level 10 problems in life, because many people put in a level 10 effort into areas of their life that are maybe like a level 1 or level 2 problem. And it was actually really funny because I was thinking about this. I've been in really good shape for well over a decade. That's not a level 10 problem for me. And you were asking me on your podcast, out of Brain Body Business, which the podcast is all about, which area are you the most focused on, or you want to grow the most? And it's business, because my brain and body is really well looked after by kind of keystone habits and things that I just do on autopilot now and always will do. So when he was speaking to me, I was like, okay, me training 6 days a week and doing like 12, 13,000 steps actually is me putting a level 10 effort into what isn't actually a level 10 problem. My level 10 problem is I still pretty much have my entry level ebooks that you can work with me on. and then my one-to-one coaching, my one-to-one workshops that I'll do in offices. I need something in the middle in terms of a video course that is a bit more passive, that people can learn in their own time with all my templates and frameworks, and building that out and making sure I'm happy with the quality of that is actually the level 10 problem. Because when you go on a discovery call with somebody and they can't afford one-to-one coaching, but you know that you can help them, they can still have access to you and your learnings and whatever. So I was like, fuck, I need to do that. And I'm in a position where that will launch in the new year at the time of recording, speaking in December. So me training more or doing more ice bath or more hot and cold, which people consider to be disciplined, actually isn't the most disciplined thing. So thinking about, if you're listening to this, what is something that you really need to address? And are you actually being disciplined in addressing that? Or are you being disciplined in other areas? Like, I read a chapter of a book every night, I hit my steps, I hit my meals, I hit my training. That's great. Discipline's amazing in those areas of your life, but are you disciplined in the area that truly matters?
More leads, more meetings, more quotes, more proposals, and closing a higher percentage of those. That's exactly what it's time to unlock with my sales masterclass. I've distilled down over 15 years of sales experience across B2B and B2C into some actionable lessons which you can benefit from. Clients that I've worked with one-to-one over the last 6 to 18 months have had incredible results, and it's now time for me to share with you an easier way to work with me rather than on a one-to-one basis. To get involved, hit the link in the show notes or under this description wherever you're watching this to join today's waiting list, and there's even some free goodies in there for you while you wait for the course to go live.
Can I ask you a question?
Let's do it.
Is it harder for you to train or is it harder for you not to train?
It's hard for me not to train. Like, I'm completely addicted.
Well, so then you've answered your question of that's never a problem for you. So that's a default habit that's looped into your self-identity. And I think that's where one of the great things that, say, like someone like Craig is so good with is he has so much life experience, he can reframe things. And I can give you a beautiful reframe he gave here. Would you agree that skepticism on the internet is increasing?
Yes.
Okay. So he said to me, this isn't skepticism, because he's been marketing online for a long time. 2001, people didn't even want to use the fucking credit card on the internet. So like comparatively to skepticism back then, I was like, well, that's an interesting reframe. So I was like, okay.
It's easier now than it was then. What are you moaning about?
Yeah. So like, but that's also where people with life experience who've kind of been around the block a little bit, respectfully to Craig, they can kind of sometimes pull you back into it. And that's why I said to you in terms of like, he's been a father. I probably text with him on WhatsApp a couple times a week. And particularly now he's really good as like a father, as a role model, and kind of give me some great advice. That for me, I think is where the power of people to be like, I completely see your point, because your brain is trying to look for a reason why it's difficult, why this won't work, rather than a reason why it will.
Yeah, that's so helpful. And I think when we have these frameworks, we stand on the shoulders of giants. So somebody that's been where you've been before. So Craig, you look up to as a family man, you've recently become a father. When you have somebody that you can bounce ideas off and learn from, it's the exact same when you start a business, you work with the likes of Charlie, or you want to improve your sales process, so it works the likes of me. When I started podcasting, my first guest was Chris Williamson, because I was like, I want to go straight to the source of somebody I really respect. Now, in 2020, Chris Williamson was not the Chris Williamson that we see now, but you could back a winning horse and be like, I want to learn everything I can from this guy across an hour and a half. Get around the people that are doing the thing, and then you're going to benefit from that. You can stand on the shoulders of those giants.
That's probably the biggest life hack. And I've also transparently, like one of the easiest ways to do it is the environment. So for me, moving to Dubai kind of really accelerated that, because then the speed of which I had access to the smartest and best people in the world and the people who came into my network has allowed me to learn things that I would never have learned if I'd stayed in the UK and stayed in my little shed office in my garden.
Yeah, it's difficult to recognize that sometimes, but the proof is in the pudding sometimes. And I think we were speaking about the energy in Dubai is very abundant, very encouraging. People are interested in what you're up to, and they're interested in who they can connect you with. Whereas I think in the UK, people sometimes keep their cards closer to their chest, and they're a little bit more like, food, me giving you food is food off my plate, rather than there's enough food for the buffet for everyone to eat.
I can give you another example of an interesting reframe that I do to people a little bit. So we have a lot of clients who are American, and I have a lot of friends who are American who complain about the US. I'm like, you live in the greatest country in the world. Like, as someone from the UK, and like Dubai is amazing, I would still consider moving to America and paying tax and living there. Like, I think it's an amazing place, and it's the biggest economy in the world. If you want to make money, that's where you go big time. So I think that would be another example where you're used to kind of what you have, and you kind of take it for granted sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. We don't know what we don't know. One of your videos recently was looking ahead to 2026 and how coaches you work with or people in the fitness space can make 100k a month. Now, that's a staggering figure and really exciting figure for a lot of people. I think a lot of the lessons when I was listening to you are relevant to people across any particular business. What are the kind of key pieces of advice that you would have for somebody that's looking to make that sort of money in 2026?
The biggest thing I'd say is, this sounds woo and it's not probably the answer that younger me would have wanted, but it's everything is, if you think in a very simple frame set, is it's your, and I'll explain the analogies, MS times SS times TS. So it's your mindset times your skill set times your tool set. The reason why I say mindset first is because your brain dictates everything, so, which is why fitness and health is the foundation of everything, because you are successful based upon the way you think, and then your thoughts will then create your kind of reality. So I think if you can put yourself in the right frame of mind where you can get your mindset, okay, we can be growth minded, you're willing to take risks, you've got the 3R mentality of resilient, relentless and resourceful, because you're going to have to be resourceful when you need to make money into the business, you're going to have to be resilient when things go wrong, and you've got to keep going, because at the beginning it's not going to work the first time you post on Instagram, you don't have 50 people message you. The big thing I would look for is just trying to get proof of concept, and then just keep looking for wins and reinforcing that positivity.
Even if they're small?
100%. And if you want to start an online business or start your own business, I always recommend to everyone, keep your full-time job and use that to actually fund the business. So for me, one of the things I did is I was working in my 9 to 5 and I was pushing money from that to build my fitness business, to hire videographers, photographers. We were using Instagram shout outs back then, all types of marketing stuff that I could then accelerate the process, because I knew if I got escape velocity and enough of that flywheel kicking, I could then get out where I wanted to be. But that comes with a risk. And that's why I say to everyone that there's no risk, there's no reward. So you have to be willing to kind of put it on the line a bit and go for it. And the best advice I can give to anyone here, if you're starting a business or your business is wherever it is, but it's not the next level you want, is what's the downside if it doesn't work? You're probably just where you are anyway. So you might as well just try.
Yeah, we were speaking about my decision-making process on your show, and a lot of it being logical, but also intuition as well. And I think a lot of people need to consider, if nothing changes, then nothing changes. Are you happy with that? Will you be happy with that? If not, what course of action will we take to change the potential of our outcomes? And in the same way you were saying about the start of the day, you were writing down, I'll make 10K today, and you're like, actually, that's wrong. I need to think about how I'm going to make 10K and what actions I need to do. Think about what you want to get towards and what you might need to do to get you towards that. And then things become a lot clearer, because then you recognize that I'm not going to stay where I am. I'm going to try and work towards this new goal. And again, another phrase that we used earlier, we had a lot of good cliches on the last one. If we aim for the moon, we'll land among the stars. And that's a better place to be than we are just now.
A big argument of why people can't do it now and can't be successful with a business is whatever market you're in is saturated. People don't want to spend the money, blah, blah, blah. The list will always kind of go on, and there's always kind of an excuse not to do it, but you need to find an excuse why to do it. And if I was to give you some excuses why it's easier than ever before in 2026, with AI, you can do more than you could even imagine. So like I can analyze 150 sales calls from our team in 30 seconds. I can create content faster than ever before. From planning, ideation, I can run more ads than before. You can basically create yourself into like a superhuman business machine almost as one single person if you have the right mindset and you're willing to invest 20 hours into learning some of these skills. You can understand the base fundamentals to get you going.
Yeah, I think the technology we've got removes a lot of excuses. Just to call on one of those there, if we listen back and we feed the transcripts of our sales calls, we can identify the main pain points, the main objections, the main drivers of our kind of core client avatar. And then guess what? As you would tell us, you shape your content and your paid ads or your outbound around those pain points, and then you run your discovery calls to ask questions, which will unlock that as well. And what gets measured get managed. If you don't have that data, you are pretty much just guessing and you're going on vibes. And I hate the idea that somebody's sales process would just run on how they feel on that particular day or how that client turns up to that call. Let's have a bit more agency and control and increase our surface area of luck.
So even if you talk about surface area of luck, the bigger your business gets, the more you kind of need to be aware and intentional. So a fascinating exercise I did last week is I took all of our financial data from last year and this year and then compared them with AI. So a lot of the paid ads data, and it actually said that technically on paid ads, we've gotten worse, but we're making way more money. I was like, okay, so why? It's because our back end processes in terms of fulfillment, upsells, all the other kind of stuff we're doing is absolutely
So clients
crushing.
are being stickier once they're in. Okay.
So and how kind of the demographics in terms of revenue spread is kind of shifting. I had a gut feeling I knew these things were happening, but when you can see the percentages change, it's wild. And that took me 30 seconds. But it just comes down to, like I said earlier, why you have to put your mindset first, because I had to have the thought to think, this might be a good idea. Let me get this data and run it through here and then see what it says.
Over the last 5 years, I've sat down with over 330 guests on camera conversations, from athletes to entrepreneurs, scientists and thinkers, all trying to answer the same question: how do we live, perform, and generally be better? I've distilled down everything that I've learned from that 5-year period into a brand new guide, 20 lessons from camera conversations covering mindset, money, performance, and meaning. Inside, you'll find some of the biggest ideas from the likes of Chris Williamson, Craig Ballantyne, Sterling Cooper, Nia Rel, and many, many more. These are not just sound bites, these are actionable principles and lessons that you can take on board. Whether you want to level up your mindset, your business, or your health, this guide gives you the shortcuts to do just that. You can hit the link in the show notes today to download it for free, or DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn, the word lessons, to get involved.
Technology has got us in a position where we can use it like that and benefit more than ever before, but also we can be distracted more than ever before. And it's really easy to get sucked into consumption rather than creation and ideation. And while I'm not going to say to everyone to start a podcast or start a YouTube channel, you can be using ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, whatever you're using to improve your business, to improve your lifestyle, or you could end up in a TikTok rabbit hole of AI generated gunk that's just going to absolutely suck the life out of you. Which way, Western man?
I think the big thing you need to do is just be self-aware and catch yourself. So sometimes, I don't know if you get this, is also why I hate phones. I have like 400 unread WhatsApps. I'll go in my phone to go into WhatsApp to get a link or something that someone sent me, and I'll see another message, and then I end up clicking on that, and then I forgot why I went into WhatsApp in the first place. So this shows how like distracted you constantly are. So if the easiest way to be successful generally in life and get more shit done is not from addition, it's from subtraction. What can you kind of eliminate and take away? You said to me earlier that you're really good at golf and you get off to kind of play paddle. Same thing for me is like, okay, I want to play paddle, I want to do boxing, I want to be into bodybuilding training. I was like, oh, I quite like running, and then I also want to do supercar stuff, and like, just pick one thing. You can't do 5 things and then focus on your business and do everything.
We need to be selective. Of course, you can enjoy particular things, but the way that my personality is, I would rather be really good at a few different things that I do. And again, if somebody was like, it's my birthday, we're all going to play paddle, I'd come and play, right? But I'm not going to make it a weekly thing because it takes away from my ability to go to the driving range, to go to the course, which is more of a priority for me. Or if somebody's like, oh, we're going to go to this high rocks class, but we only go like once a month, I'd be like, I'm not coming, because it means it takes away from one of my sessions that I want to do in the gym that I actually enjoy, because it contributes to the overall goal. So again, I think it's just knowing yourself and self-awareness of what you actually want.
It's the art of saying no. And I think we live in a society where I think a lot of people are people pleasers. And sometimes if you are the person who says no a lot, you can kind of be portrayed as maybe not
The bad guy.
Yeah, the bad guy. But I think that's also where people will have respect for you and you're also honest. And then also if you do go to something, like you're 100% present, you're happy, and then people are bought in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You've achieved a huge level of success over the last few years. Your move to Dubai, the place that we find ourselves in, the ClickFunnels Awards on the wall, and all that good stuff as well. What would be one success trait that you would recommend somebody looks at for 2026 for themselves to really achieve what they want?
Break down your 2026 goals into the character traits of who you need to be every single day and the processes of what you need to do, and just try and simplify it. And I think if you can focus on trying to win the day, I remember, I'll give you a good example. So the start of last year, I might do it the next year actually. I came up with this stupid idea for, if you've heard of 75 hard.
Yep.
I came up with an idea, it was like 75 scale. I just came to some like bullshit idea. I was like, okay, I'm going to get up at 4:30 every single day. I'm going to read, I think it was 10 chapters of a book. I have to stick to my diet. I have to work out. Like the working out thing was easy. There's a couple of other, I had to do like an end of day kind of like journaling thing. And for I think like 80 or 90 days in a row, I got up before 5 a.m. every single day, even when I was in the US, and it was highly productive. And I think if you can try and gamify yourself with something like that, I was literally, my journal would be like day 1, day 2, day 3. You can kind of make the process fun. But it's like, if anyone who's into video games, you're on a hot streak, you don't want to fuck the game up. So you're like, I have to get up before 5 a.m. And that's how you can kind of manipulate yourself.
And it could be anything, couldn't it? It doesn't need to be the early rise. It could be that you send 10 cold DMs a day and then across a month, you've sent way more than you would ever have sent previously, because you would have only done it when you felt motivated or stimulated to do it. Whereas now you're doing it out of habit and routine, and because it's who you are.
It's the identity shift, and you become the person who just does the thing regardless. And that's ultimately when it kind of comes easier to win. The other key thing for 2026 I say people need to focus on is, this is kind of two things, is like, what's the thing I need to learn, and then how can I learn it? Like, where's my biggest weakness right now? If you don't know, maybe ask, or you can even ask AI. If you use a lot, you'll probably know. And then, okay, who's the person? What's the thing? What's the video? What can help me solve this?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if we don't know what we need to address, and how can we address it?
And this is where, from a business perspective, I see a lot of people doing the right thing, but in the wrong order. So they're trying to fix a chapter 12 problem. They're still in chapter 1. I was like, dude, you don't need to do this yet. You need to focus on this.
Yeah, I was doing a workshop with a client the other day where we were going through their CRM, and I was like, how can we possibly forecast when this is effectively just a wish list rather than a pipeline? Because there was deals on there that hadn't been spoken to in like 3-4 weeks, and their deal cycle is like 2 weeks. Yes or no, out, deliver, whatever it is. And if you aren't willing to do that level of analysis, then how can you ever know what you need to address? So I was saying to him, I was like, what stage is this person at? What stage is this person at? What do they receive at this stage? What do they receive at this stage? If they go cold on you, what's your sequence of emails that you send them, or your sequence of calls that you do for them? And he was like, I don't know. I was like, okay, well, we also don't know what your conversion rate truly is then, because so many of these things are just like random inquiries you've had through your website or through your LinkedIn or through your Instagram. How can we possibly get to this stage? So one, we did a massive clear out of that. And then moving forward with that CRM, they can work out at what stage of the process they're losing the most leads, or what stage of the process they're actually really good at, and then work on the areas that they aren't good at. So is it a case of after the discovery call, we're just not hearing back from somebody about whether they want to move ahead with the proposal, or even whether they want to receive a proposal? Or is it a case of I send out the proposal and I'm getting loads of no's about this particular thing, or I'm getting loads of yeses about this particular thing? Because until you have that data, it's really hard to know what the gap in the funnel is, because you'll know yourself, Charlie, through being a ClickFunnels expert. There's particular parts of the funnel where more stuff is going sideways and out it rather than out the bottom where we want it.
And this is for me as well, like, you can see my smile from my reaction. Like, one of my favorite things to do is like, I'll just jump on a call with someone and be like, okay, and I'll just ask them for 8 to 10 numbers. I'll be like, okay, that's a problem. And like, a really good example of a client of ours who smashed, and he said this actually on a YouTube video with me. He was like, your superpower is be like, just draw the red dot. If like, this is the problem, just fix that. Because there's always like theory of constraints. There's one thing that's kind of breaking or stopping the business. The problem is that people either don't have the data, they don't know what they should be looking for. And data sounds like a complicated thing. It's like, you had 10 sales calls, you closed 5 people, okay, so your closing rate's 50%, is not rocket science. Try and like simplify things as much as possible. And if you have all the numbers, it's quite easy then to see, particularly if you work with someone experienced, like pattern recognition of, okay, generally that's kind of way off of what you see in the industry. So if you fix that, it will fix itself.
Yeah. I've asked you there about how others can be successful. You've been on a massive success journey yourself. My kind of sort of final question for you is around, by 2030, how would you reflect on this period as a success? What would need to have happened by then?
For me to have success by 2030, the biggest thing I want is to be able to have had a monumental amount of impact to help other people have financial freedom. Because I remember when I was around 26 years old, thinking I was trapped in life, in a job I didn't like, in kind of an average situation. And the biggest thing I didn't want was to be average. And every week kind of blended into the same. And I just felt like I was wasting my life away. If I, in 4 or 5 years' time, I can have the ability to help as many people as possible try and escape out of that and show them what's possible, I will be incredibly happy based upon that. I also know that from the back end of that, I will also be more successful, which will be a byproduct of that. But I'm happy with where I'm at and kind of what I've achieved. But the biggest thing I take joy from is helping other people, pulling them up to the level where they can be, because most people don't realize their potential.
Yeah, there's an element of a rising tide raises all ships as well. And I didn't realize how good it would feel to get testimonials from my sales coaching clients. So on the scale that you're doing it on, I think one of the stats on your website was around 1,200 coaches have been through some of the different scaling programs you've got. When you get those messages through, it feels really good, and it's good to do good, which again, some people are like, oh, you're doing good to feel good about yourself. Men's nervous system is wired that we have to do good to feel good. Women typically need to feel good to do good, which is a really interesting contrast between the two. A neuroscientist, TJ Power, taught me that on the show. And when we're having a positive impact as men and we're building for ourselves and others around us, That's a really purposeful existence.
And the number one reason, in my opinion, men have unhappiness is a lack of purpose. Which is why when you see people retire, they fucking go off the rails.
They fade away, yeah. Yeah, we want to avoid that. Charlie, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Thanks so much for having me at your beautiful house here on the Palm. If listeners want to continue the conversation, where should they head towards? Where do you want to direct them?
Best two places to check me out would be on Instagram at Charlie Johnson Fitness. I've also got a decent LinkedIn because I think a lot of your audience there would just be Charlie Johnson will come up. We also have our own podcast, which is the Charlie Johnson Show as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Charlie. And thank you to the listener. I'll be back to speak to you again very, very soon.